So you were saying, let's go right into the meat of the matter. A lot of people
Bismillah.
have been, as Muslims, caught in this, I guess, tug of war. Who do I support? Russia and Ukraine, right? It's not an easy of a decision innately to a lot of people, like, let's say, the Israeli and Palestinian conflict, right? Or the China and Uyghur
Mhm,
Muslims, right? So where do you
mhm.
come into this picture?
So, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri, wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. This whole kind of like, what side should Muslims take? The NATO, US, West backed Ukraine, or Russia? So, Five Pillars actually held a debate just last week on this very subject, and we're going to do a part two because Muslims seem to be very conflicted over this. Even there's the awam, which is the lay people. Then there is obviously states and governments. Even Muslim states and governments, of which there are 52, they're split over it. There was a UN vote today. It was neither here or there. There was no major majority there, yeah? Now, personally speaking, my brother, the only Muslims who should be in a position to take a side because it directly affects them would be the Muslims of Shishan and Crimea and that region. Because that conflict directly impacts them in a real way. And then by extension, it would then affect the Muslims of Bosnia Herzegovina, because we know that if Russia is outright victorious in Ukraine, it will embolden the Serbian nationalists, Kafar, and then make them want to start another genocide. So for those Muslims, they may have to take a side because it affects them. Do you understand? For us Muslims, sitting in the West or anywhere else in part of the world, do we need to take a side? I would respectfully say no. And I would add to that by those who like citing Surah Ar-Rum, that the fact that the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ were rejoicing when the Roman Byzantines were victorious over the Persians, there's a very unique context to this. Number one, at that time, neither the Persians nor the Romans had oppressed and occupied Muslims. Number two, the loyalty or the support for the Romans was based on Aqidah. They were Christians, Ahl al-Kitab, they were closer to us in creed than the Zoroastrians, who the pagans of Makkah were backing. So I've seen a lot of people use this example. It doesn't count, yeah? Here we have two states, and let's add to this story, Ukraine is not free or innocent of Muslim blood. It sent the third biggest unit as part of NATO to Iraq, yeah? Let's not forget that also, only 4, 5, 6 years ago, President Zelensky, the current Ukrainian media politician, he tweeted basically backing Israel, saying that Israel is being bombarded by missiles from Gaza, something along those lines, right? And there was a Muslim brother who tweeted him that many years ago and said, watch the ride when that happens to your doorstep. Lo and behold, it's come. So no one is innocent or free of Muslim blood here, right? So therefore, why do we need to? There is no such thing as a lesser evil when there is an option not to choose any evil, right? And the list of crimes of both sides and their supporters is quite frankly endless. If you allow me just a minute to quickly just give our viewers and listeners an insight into this. Russia was always regarded as the arch enemy of the Uthmani Khilafah. It was never Britain and France. It was the Russians who were seen in terms of constant aggression, right? And then we go into the brutal 45 to 50 years of communist rule under the Soviets and their satellite states in Central Asia, the Caucasus and the Balkans, where Islam was quite frankly eradicated, yeah, from the public space, yeah. Then we go what Russia did in Chechnya, what they did, they backed the Serbs against the Bosnians, and the fact that they have martyred hundreds and thousands of Muslims of Asham, right? So for all those Sheikh Imran Hussein loving anti-imperialist Muslims, calm yourself. Your wala and bara is to the Muslims, not to any kind of anti-imperialism is not our furqan. That is not our criteria. Arami, I love you to bits, my brother. Al-Aqsa is close to our heart, but we similarly say to the Palestinians and those who back two-state solution on one party over the other, when you secularize and nationalize a cause, that's not our furqan. Sorry, yeah? No matter how bad the oppression is, that's not our furqan. Our furqan and our wala and bara is to Allah, His Messenger, and the Ummah, first and foremost. So on that basis, Muslims who are not directly impacted outside of that region don't need to take a side. And as for the West and America, NATO, Yani, I'm not even going to sit here and give you guys a list of things that they've done. It's too long. So no one needs to take a side. There is no side to take. Watch back, sit back, kick back, watch what's going on, and make dua for the oppressed and the innocent of Ukraine. This is what we do. We are on the side of those who are oppressed and for those who are victims of injustice. It's not rocket science. So the fact that we've got Chechens under Kadyrov fighting Tatars and Chechens of Ukraine, Muslims fighting Muslims. Now there's a whole debate as to Kadyrov's politics, his treachery over the Mujahideen, and how he basically wiped them out so he can cement his power. And then there's so many, but the point of the matter is these are bearded men who are saying takbir and the shahada before going into battle, and they're killing each other. And do you guys know that just yesterday, the national security representative of Ukraine confirmed that the special Chechen unit that was sent by Putin to assassinate Zelensky was wiped out. Do you know how they were wiped out? FSB informed Ukraine that, yeah, we're sending a Chechen unit to wipe out your president. They whacked them out. So what about that for treachery? Do you understand? Wallahi, when will we ever realize that neither of these states and powers are our allies? Allah tells us in the Quran, they are allies of one another. So why do you seek victory from them? In fact, any viewers and listeners who are watching, tell me a time in Islamic history from the time of the Prophet ﷺ to now when a non-Muslim came to liberate Muslims in the manner in which we understood liberation within our history. Never. So why we continue to turn to them, I get it, for respite, for short-term wins, PR wins, I get all of that. But in terms of liberation and victory, without overtly saying it, we know how and when that will happen. That's not going to happen from UN and NATO and these men. No way.
Alhamdulillah. I think there's another thing too. It's the perseverance aspect too. Like, we're more willing to stick through with things that we set out with an intention.
It's impossible to have empathy for others if you're not patient. So may Allah bless you for that.
First off, I'm going to agree with the fact that the whole thing you said about friends, where it's like if they're affecting you more than you're affecting them, then you should probably get some new friends.
You want to be investing in stocks, shares, you want to be investing in crypto, because there's this thing called inflation, which means every year that passes by, the value of a dollar goes lower and lower and lower. And the reason being is because they're printing more money, right? That's why money is haram. At least the paper money is haram.
Provided that you're actually there and you're being a good father and the mother's being a good mother, best conditions.
And behind the mic, Hamza, Andreas, Zortsis, we will go in with our final three with brother Angel, inshallah.
Inshallah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
It's not just a responsibility on you, it's a responsibility on all the children, especially your father.
In our private area is very elastic, and yeah, if you go too fast, the skin will literally crease up into like the edge of like the little clipper things, and you will literally clip your skin. You don't want to be on YouTube or the internet or anything that amount of time, but it's the fact is that's what we're doing.